Okay, so since we've been talking about future, we're already in the future that Alvin Toffler had talked about years ago in 1980 in his book The Third Wave, and everything has gotten accelerated. So, what impact does it have on beginners, people who are just starting out on their jobs, mid-career professionals, and senior management?
Really good question. Now, the reality is that the organizations, as we know them, as have we've been familiar with them over the last decade or 2 decades, you know, they arose in a very different set of circumstances to solve a very different problem. And the central problem which organizations of today were solving were, how do we manage scale efficiently? So your hierarchies become really important, your process orientation becomes really important, efficiency becomes really important. And some of these have been, the underlying core principles behind the way organizations over the last many decades have functioned. What has really changed is that because of largely technology and globalization, organizations across the world and across pretty much every field are facing or will very soon be facing disruption. And the way organizations have been designed, they haven't been designed to be able to very quickly understand trends and respond to them. So there's a mismatch. Organizations were designed for efficiency and scale, but what we're going to need along with efficiency and scale, that's still important, is the ability to be innovative, responsive, to be able to be agile. And those are not qualities which organizations have traditionally fostered. So that's going to have huge implications. The biggest is that careers are not going to look anything like the careers of our generation, for instance, looked like. Even when we were starting out, India was just opening up, and there were so many opportunities for for people like us, to be honest. We really rode the wave. There were opportunities everywhere. In our generation, so long as you were not terrible, you were good. So definitely in the 90s and 2000s, so long as you were, in fact, a colleague once shared with me, and he was a senior MD of Deutsche Bank at the time. And in fact, he was also a classmate at IIM. And he told me, actually speaking, if someone can tie their shoelaces, we hire them. So, so the entry barriers were really low. You just had to be reasonably intelligent and willing to do some work, and you got hired. And of course, if you were smart enough, both in terms of your work and understanding how to navigate your organization, you rode the wave and became very senior very quickly. All that's set to change. We are in a recession as of today.
Yes.
The first time since liberalization that we are facing a recession. So keep in mind that India Inc., as it said, has no real experience with handling recession. This is absolutely the first time. There have only been 4 recessionary years since independence. This is one of them. And it's predicted to be the strongest recession of these. So, we're going to do things we have no experience of. But it's not as much the recession, but the uncertainty and the, shall I say, maybe the fewer job opportunities in established organizations we're going to see for a long, long time to come. So for beginners, it means that you're going to have to really think about how to build your career. Certainly, the idea that you can join 1 or 2 organizations and ride the wave and reach the top, it will be a reality only for very, very few. So even in our generation, for instance, after 25, 26 years, it's only a small handful who have, remained within the mainstream corporate world and built their careers there. But it's going to be much fewer than even that, because, organizations are going to have to be designed very differently. And the corporate ladder is going to look very, very different. So for people who are starting out now, you really have to dig deep and say, what is it that I want to bring in a variety of contexts, of which the corporate world might be one of them. So huge shift for young people, and to be honest, their parents, because very often the parents expect their kids to have a career similar to theirs. It looks like those days are gone. It's not happening. For people who are mid-career now, it's a bigger challenge actually, because it means that now you have to adjust to a world which is going to ask for different things than what it did so long. So, you were told a certain story that, okay, to do well, you need to do A, B, C, D. But all of that suddenly changed because organizations are changing and middle managers are under huge, pressure. Middle management is going to be a very, very vulnerable layer as organizations move to a more agile structure and as automation, enters organizations in a large way. So if you're mid-career, it's really a time to dig deep and think about what is it that you bring, which is independent of the organization which you're part of, because maybe your career is going to be in this organization, but maybe not. You're very, very vulnerable. For senior leaders, it's like a huge shift. They've grown up in an era where um, opportunities were abundant. You sort of just had to be respectful, do your job, and pretty much, other than 2 or 3 people right at the top who were thinking of, what's the long term, you could just manage business as usual and you would be fine. But that's changed. And it means donning a very different hat and understanding this shift. Some will, I'm sure, thrive in it and they will love every moment of it. The whole challenge of managing business as usual with business in the future will be super exciting, but not for everyone. It's not for everyone. So there will be many people at the top who will have this huge challenge that all that they prized so much when they were building their career may not actually be enough anymore. So